It's a new toy that I've gotten. These are some brand new NECA figures. I attempt, you can see my full-size one back here. I attempt as best I can to collect every version of this spacesuit, of that spacesuit, of the spacesuit designed by Mobius, built by John Mollo and his Academy Award-winning team for Alien. It's my favorite spacesuit. And NECA's these new beautiful Kane suits, which are, to be honest, as good as the Hot Toys version. I mean, right there. It's just beautiful. Nobody has still yet identified the flashlight. Those red flashlights from Alien, man. I have heard that the lighting element itself is from an old piece of film equipment called a redhead, which is, I think in the US, we might call it an inky or a snoot. It's like a smaller light, but it's like a spotlight, and it had a handle, and apparently they modified them for Alien, but I still have never been able to find one. Okay, let's take a look at some of your questions. I have not pre-screened these questions, which makes the first question hilarious. Who is your favorite actor from the series that isn't named Sigourney Weaver, and why is it Bill Paxton? Because Bill Paxton is part of a very rare, yes, it is Bill Paxton. And it's because Bill Paxton is part of a very rarefied group of actors, including Aaron Eckhart, Don Cheadle, William Fichtner, Gene Hackman. These are character actors who, when they're in a movie, they're going to be the best part of that movie. They're just amazing. And Bill Paxton he's so good in Alien, but he also serves this really critical function. And it's similar to the function that Harrison Ford serves in the Star Wars movies. And that is, in a movie where the suspension of I believe this. It's not a universal rule, but in a narrative in which the suspension of disbelief bar is high, i.e., I've got to believe that aliens are actually attacking these people, or in a movie like that, like Star Wars or Alien, which are both absurd, right? They have nothing to do with our reality. They encompass all sorts of impossible things. So in a film like that, it really helps to have a character in the film who is making fun of how ridiculous everything is on our behalf. That's what Han Solo does throughout all the Star Wars movies. He looks around and he's like, do any of you people believe this crap? That's what Han Solo spends most of the first 3 movies doing. Yeah. And the same thing with Paxton in Aliens. He serves as this comedic reminder of just how absurd everything is, even while it's all hugely awful. And it's also part of that thing of when you are super scared, the laughs come with much more fervor. That is like, that's Tarantino's go-to, right? Like the horror followed by a joke means you laugh like this big belly laugh. I got to actually meet and spend a little time with Bill Paxton a bunch of years ago at Comic-Con. It was behind him and his delightful daughter on the red carpet. I was there with my son, Thing 2, and he was there with his daughter, and we ended up chatting on the red carpet, and then we walked into the party and talked for about an hour. And what a completely delightful human being to boot, right? Like, I love him in everything, Near Dark all the way to Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt film. That time, I can't remember what film he was working on, but he was telling me, I was like, what are you working on lately? He's like, oh, I'm working on this film. They didn't realize they gave me the best part. And the joy on his face at how much fun it was to play this small part in this film, that he was like, oh no, it's by far the best role. This is lovely. Excuse me, sorry. That awesome question was submitted by Sean Holden. Thank you, Sean. Jen Subs wants to know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the relative raw industrialness of the production on Alien. It feels like one of the first space movies with that gritty feel to the hardware, dripping water, rusty chains, as opposed to the relatively sterile, perfect space hardware of most franchises, 2001, Star Trek, etc. Yeah, I mean that's the key delineator here between uh, the Star Trek 2001 aesthetic and the aesthetic of Star Wars. But the aesthetic of Star Wars is Black Hole is 78. Am I right? Yeah, Black Hole comes out after Star Wars, so it's following along those same kind of dirty ship stuff. Silent Running and Dark Star. Dark Star is such an important movie. Alien. It's not unreasonable to say that Alien exists because of Dark Star. It a lot of the art department, and again, sorry, right now I haven't looked over these names, but a bunch of the names in the key art department roles and producer roles on Alien were also on Dark Star. And but you asked a specific question: what is my thoughts on the industrialness? I think it's a response. I think it's a cultural response. And it's an interesting one. In the same way that Star Wars, in the same way that Star Trek is a cultural response, right? So Star Trek shows up in the 60s at this moment of cultural upheaval. And Gene Roddenberry, who's witnessed a lot of upheaval in his own life, fought in the military, and he creates this document which envisages a human paradise, which envisages an Earth in which nobody wants for the necessities. Star Trek is a product of its time. Star Wars is also a product of its time. And I think that Star Wars and Alien are almost this really interesting commentary on each other. But to give a little more context that I've been thinking about, I'm going to refer to Steve Martin's appearance on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, which is super delightful. If you are of a certain age, I'm 53, when you were a kid, Steve Martin was the biggest thing in the entire world. He was so important. And he had this crazy career. He's the first comedian to play arenas. And then he played this arena in Westchester County and then never played again the big arenas. And Seinfeld wants to talk to him as a professional about, like, it's so beautiful how in awe of Steve Martin Seinfeld is. And he's just like, I just want to know about the material. And he's asking him all these process questions. It's delightful. But one of the things that Steve Martin says is, the time when he became ascendant, which is the 70s, everything was so upsetting. Nixon was being impeached and resigned, all this crime, and just everything felt so weird and hopeless. Martin said, I realized that what people wanted was absurdity, so I wrote all my material to be as absurd as possible. So I don't think it's much of a leap to look at the absurdity of Star Wars and of Alien in terms of that suspension of disbelief, that being transported somewhere wholly other, but in two totally different ways. Alien's a gothic horror film, and Star Wars is a fantasy film, but they're both transporting us. I feel like Ridley Scott saw Star Wars and he was like, nice work, lads, but I think we can go darker with that aesthetic. I really do. Watching Star Wars and Alien, right? Because they're like 3 years apart, 2.5 years apart. Lots of the same people worked on both. There's a lot of institutional crossover in terms of the knowledge and creative base, and yet the products themselves are so different. But again, I still don't think I've answered the question you originally had, Jen Subs. My thoughts are that it's beautiful, that industrialness of the ships in Aliens and the ships in Star Wars. And now more and more within the Star Trek universe, the ships in Star Trek, because they've made them look more used and utilized. I feel like all that weathering, all that damage that you can see extant, that narrative you can see on the surface of the ship is exactly that. It's a narrative, and it draws us in, and it makes us look at that and be like, underneath the hood of my car doesn't look too different. I feel like that aged aesthetic is it draws us in as viewers. Not necessarily that a perfect aesthetic shuts us out, but it certainly can, because it's too perfect. Grayson Dusk. Thank you, Jen Subs, for that question. I love waxing on. Clearly, I love waxing on about the weatheredness of the alien Star Wars, Star Trek universality. Thank you guys so much for watching that entire video. If you would like to support Tested even further, well, I'm here to tell you that you could become a member. If you follow the links below, you'll see there are several tiers of membership depending on how much you'd like to pay and how much access you would like to me and the Tested team. And membership comes, as always, with some excellent benefits, including questions that I'll answer in live streams. The questions have been so amazing, and exclusive videos and exclusive content. Follow the links below, and we will see you next time.